The greatest obstacle to change is not the unknown. It is the comfort of the known. This quote by Virginia Satir invites us to look at something we all feel but rarely name. We talk about change as if it were just a matter of willpower. But behind every habit that holds you back, there's a story. Maybe a childhood full of silences. Maybe fear of losing loved ones if you change too much. Now, you will understand why your brain resists, why you sabotage yourself, and why true change requires more than discipline. It's a journey, a crossing, and it starts here. Maybe you too have lain awake at night, staring at the ceiling in silence, with a question stuck in your throat. Why do I keep living a life I know isn't good for me? Do you know that feeling of being on the edge of an abyss, ready to leap into a new life, but something pulls you back? Why does the inner change we so desire seem to run into invisible walls? Have you ever wondered why we feel so much resistance to change, even knowing it would set us free? The truth is, this struggle is more common than you imagine. Today, we will together unravel the secrets behind this difficulty and how to finally begin a true spiritual transformation. Changing, despite being challenging, is the gateway to your spiritual awakening. That frustration you may feel now, that clarity of what needs to change, that, however, doesn't translate into action. It has deep roots that deserve our attention. This emotional captivity, this feeling of being trapped in old patterns, is what makes change so painful. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "This time it will be different"? Maybe a new diet, the promise of daily exercise, or even the end of a relationship that wasn't good for you. The desire to change pulsates strongly. The clarity of what needs to be transformed seems obvious. But suddenly, you find yourself trapped in the same pitfalls, repeating the same emotional patterns, feeling the same pains. Why this stubbornness to relive what hurts us? Don't feel alone on this journey. The search for personal development often stumbles upon this invisible barrier, this force that keeps us anchored in a comfort zone that, paradoxically, causes us so much discomfort. It's as if an inner voice whispers, "Stay here, it's safe. You already know this pain." But is safety synonymous with happiness? Is the fear of the new stronger than the yearning for genuine inner change? When you try to change, you're not just dealing with the present. You're bumping into old memories, stored fears, an internal system that learned to survive by hiding. A behavior that hinders you today, like social anxiety, procrastination, fear of exposing yourself, may have originated as a solution, a defense. Maybe you learned early on that it was safer to be silent than to speak, that it was better to please than to risk rejection. And then we grow up. But we carry these defenses as if they were still necessary. Changing, then, is not just swapping a habit. It's revisiting who you needed to be to survive. Carl Rogers said that, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." I invite you to delve deeply into the reasons why this resistance to change is so powerful. Not to offer a magic formula, but to show that the first step of inner change lies in attentively observing what still holds you back. We will explore how we build our self-image, often based on limiting beliefs that imprison us. We will unravel the cycles of emotional repetition that lead us to relive old wounds. And, above all, we will analyze vulnerability not as fragility, but as the key to unlocking a profound spiritual transformation. Prepare yourself for a journey of self-knowledge, an invitation to question your own prisons and, who knows, take the first step towards a more authentic and free life. What prevents you from truly changing? This is the question we will explore together. Think of your self-image as an invisible script that guides your actions and interpretations of the world. From childhood, we are shaped by family comments, cultural expectations, and even interactions on social media. These experiences build an idea of who we are, often crystallized into fixed identities. Phrases like, "I've always been shy," "I'm an anxious person," or "I'm not good at this," become self-fulfilling prophecies, reinforcing limiting emotional patterns and behaviors. This self-image functions as a powerful lens that filters our choices. If you see yourself as incapable of success, you will unconsciously avoid opportunities that might prove otherwise. If you have internalized the belief that you don't deserve to be loved, you will sabotage relationships that offer that possibility. It's as if we are trapped in a character we created or that was imposed on us, and any attempt to step out of that role generates an internal dissonance, a familiar discomfort. Humanistic psychology, with figures like Carl Rogers, shows us that the self is not a fixed entity, but rather a dynamic process in constant expansion. The rigidity of our self-image prevents this natural evolution, keeping us stuck in old patterns, even if they no longer serve us. It's like trying to fit an adult into children's clothes. It simply doesn't work and creates discomfort. This way we see ourselves, this self-image that so influences our choices, is intrinsically linked to another powerful phenomenon that keeps us trapped in old ways: the cycle of emotional repetition. Our emotional system has a surprising tendency to seek the familiar, even if that familiar is painful. It's like software running in the background, programmed to repeat known emotional patterns. Have you ever noticed how some people repeatedly get involved in toxic relationships, with partners who replicate dynamics from the past? Or how they stay in jobs that generate deep dissatisfaction, but the idea of seeking something new seems paralyzing? This happens because the limbic system, the part of our brain responsible for emotions, seeks familiarity as a safety mechanism. The known, even if it causes pain, is predictable. The unknown, on the other hand, triggers a danger alert. This unconscious search for familiarity traps us in vicious cycles, where the repetition of negative emotional patterns becomes a kind of distorted comfort. The good news is that awareness is the key to breaking this cycle. By becoming attentive observers of our feelings and reactions, we can identify these repetitive patterns and begin to question them. As James Hollis said, "What we do not bring into consciousness comes to us as fate." Genuine inner change requires this courage to look at our shadows, to recognize emotional triggers, and to consciously choose a new response. And it is precisely this search for the familiar, this repetition of emotional patterns, that often traps us in a seemingly safe space, but which, in reality, limits our growth: the infamous comfort zone. The famous comfort zone. Often, it's nothing more than the suffering I already know, as some aptly put it. Overcoming this captivity requires more than willpower, as we saw at the beginning. It's a mental space where we feel safe and protected, but this safety comes at a high price: stagnation. Staying there, out of fear of the unknown, prevents us from experiencing the new, from growing, and from discovering our true potential. Imagine a dark room. You might even stumble over the furniture, feel the discomfort of the darkness, but the familiarity of the objects keeps you there. Turning on the light represents the unknown, the fear of finding something you don't expect. This metaphor well illustrates how resistance to change paralyzes us, even when the darkness of our current situation is painful. How many times have you stayed in unhealthy routines, in habits that harm you, simply because the idea of changing seems overwhelming? A job that drains your energy, but that you don't leave for the security of a fixed salary. A worn-out relationship that persists out of fear of loneliness. These are the invisible bars of our emotional prison, built by the fear of leaving our comfort zone. Accepting the discomfort of the new is not easy, but it is the first step in breaking these chains. It is understanding that growth, spiritual transformation, rarely happens in an environment of total security. You need to have the courage to turn on the light, even if it means confronting some shadows. This difficulty in breaking out of the comfort zone often lies in a fundamental belief we nurture: the illusion that we can and should control all aspects of our lives, as a way to protect ourselves from suffering and the unpredictable. In our human journey, There is an almost universal desire to control the future, to predict every step, and to ensure a path free of obstacles. This relentless pursuit of control is often a defense against suffering, an attempt to tame the inherently unpredictable nature of life. However, this is a losing battle, an illusion that traps us even further. Life, in its essence, is impermanent. Changes happen every moment, whether we want them to or not. Trying to control every detail is like fighting against the current of a river. The water will follow its course, bypassing the rocks, flowing despite our resistance. This metaphor teaches us a valuable lesson. True inner change requires surrender, not control. When we cling rigidly to plans and expectations, the fear of the unpredictable becomes paralyzing. Any deviation from the planned route generates anxiety and frustration. We lose the ability to adapt, to find new solutions, and to trust the natural flow of existence. As Eastern wisdom reminds us, rigidity breaks, while flexibility adapts and endures. Spiritual transformation invites us to release the reins of control, to accept uncertainty as part of the journey. It's not about passivity, but rather a confident surrender to the rhythm of life, knowing that even in moments of turbulence, there is potential for growth and learning. By recognizing the futility of trying to control the uncontrollable, we open space for a posture that, at first glance, may seem paradoxically fragile, but which reveals itself as a powerful tool for transformation: vulnerability. Vulnerability, as we'll explore, is the key to shattering the bonds of this emotional imprisonment. We have reached a crucial point in our journey: vulnerability. For a long time, we have been conditioned to associate it with weakness, with a dangerous exposure of our frailties. But, as Brené Brown brilliantly teaches us, vulnerability is not weakness, but courage. It is the audacity to show ourselves authentically, with our imperfections and fears, admitting that we don't know all the answers, asking for help when we need it, saying no when necessary. These are acts of profound vulnerability, and they are also the first building blocks in the reconstruction of genuine inner change. When we stop pretending to be strong all the time, when we allow our masks to fall, we open space for true connections and real growth. Spiritual transformation does not happen on a stage of perfection, but rather in the arena of our humanity, with all its nuances. It is in our capacity to be vulnerable that we find the strength to break old patterns, to confront our shadows, and to build a new narrative for ourselves. It is by allowing ourselves to be seen in our entirety, with our pains and hopes, that we free ourselves from the prison of the idealized self-image and embrace the beauty of our authenticity. And it is in this courage to show ourselves vulnerable, to embrace our imperfections, that we find the true strength to begin a journey of inner change that is not an isolated event, but a continuous process. Let's make all this more tangible, with simple actions, yet powerful enough to create space for real change. Number 1. Start by observing a pattern you repeat every week. It could be a recurring thought, an impulsive reaction, or a choice that no longer serves you. Just observe. Don't try to change it. Don't blame yourself. The simple act of noticing is already the beginning of disruption. Number 2. Once you've identified that pattern, write about it. Just a few lines. Naming what we feel lifts us out of confusion and places us face to face with the truth. And truth is the soil where freedom grows. Number 3. Finally, ask yourself, what need is this pattern trying to meet? Maybe it's protection, control, or acceptance. Don't rush the answer. Just keep the question alive within you. That's where transformation begins to grow. Small steps, quiet, yet powerful. They don't change everything at once, but they open the door for everything to change. True inner change is not an isolated event, a switch that flips from one moment to the next. It is a continuous process, a journey of self-knowledge that unfolds with each conscious choice, each time we dare to step out of our comfort zone and embrace our vulnerability. It's not about abandoning who you were, denying your history, but rather about welcoming every part of yourself with compassion, integrating your experiences, and rewriting your narrative with more awareness and freedom. Spiritual transformation often happens in the silence of our inner selves, in the small epiphanies that arise when we allow ourselves to question our beliefs and emotional patterns. It is a gradual awakening to the truth of who we really are, beyond masks and external expectations. And perhaps, just perhaps, you who have followed me this far are already ready to take that leap. Perhaps the questions that echoed in this video have already planted a seed of curiosity and desire for inner change. If today were your day to begin this journey, where would you start? What pattern do you feel called to question? What mask would you allow yourself to drop? If you felt touched by these words, I invite you to take the next step on this journey of self-discovery. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to continue this path of spiritual growth with us. Leave in the comments your experiences with the science of intuition and how it has been a teacher for your own spiritual awakening. Let's grow together, not only in mind, but in heart. And if you still want to delve deeper into this process, watch our video, How Death Can Transform Your Life Now, which will help you understand more about the need for changes. Peace and light.